So I know I don't need another project because we got that 850 Sportsman we're taking apart. We've got the 650 Outlander. I've got 3 projects I haven't even picked up yet. We got the Big Red, we got the OBS 420, and then we got a 570 Renegade that we're gonna put a 1000 motor into. But I had a guy give us a free pit bike, and I'm not gonna say no to a free project. Now it's just a cheap Chinese little pit bike. You know, I think you get them like $400 or $500 years ago. I'm sure they went up in price, but you used to get them all over the place around the house, like super cheap. And I really love those things if you can get them for free or next to nothing, you know, like 40, 50 bucks, because they're so cheap to work on. You get like a whole set of plastics for 20 bucks. I think you get a seat and a gas tank for $43. Carburetors are like 10 bucks for them on Amazon. Stuff for them's just dirt cheap. And they turn into some really nice little projects if you just want something to cruise around on. Now, I'm not gonna go crazy with this. The idea is we're just gonna get it running to begin with. Then we'll do a nice little simple, quick, easy build out of it. You know, no more than like $100 or maybe $200 on it. We're not gonna get crazy. I hope we don't get crazy anyways. But we'll jump out there, we'll take a look at it, and I'm 99.99% sure I'm gonna have to pull the carburetor, clean the carburetor. We'll check the gas tank out, make sure there's not a bunch of trash in that, clean everything up, and hopefully this thing will crank up and run. Normally, if they set up for a while, you can just clean the carburetor, or like I say, they're so cheap to buy new. Just buy you a new carburetor, throw a carburetor on there, and you're ready to roll. But let's jump out there, take a look at what we got, and I'm gonna get this carburetor ripped off and clean the gas tank, clean it, and then hopefully we'll be riding this thing around here in a few minutes. So this is what we're working with, and as you can see, it's not in the best of shape. I'm pretty sure this thing was road wet and put up dry. But the good thing about these little Chinese pit bikes is they're pretty much a Honda clone. The motors are cloned around like a CRF 50 or like a CRF 70 motor. From what I can see on this one, I believe it's a 70. It's actually still got the VIN tag on it, which is kind of crazy. And I think right there, it says 70 cc. Another interesting fact, if this will zoom in, look at that weld there. All of that porosity. I've always been amazed looking at like factory machine welds and just seeing how rough they are and the amount of abuse they'll take before they crack. I mean, full grown man could probably jump this thing 15 or 20 foot and that weld probably wouldn't crack. And it's always been amazing to me looking at stuff. I guess with my welding background and stuff, it's just kind of interesting to see. But the idea at the moment is we're just going to get this running, get it driving. We'll check into some parts on it. I had a buddy that built one of these not too long ago. This one's got drum brakes, and I'm thinking his did too, and he swapped everything over with new forks, a disc brake conversion, and everything for like 80, 90 bucks or something. So I'll probably look into that. We'll probably get the plastic seat gas tank deal. I think he even put a set of like full-size aftermarket bars on his with the aftermarket carburetor. And I think he put exhaust. I think you get like a whole exhaust for like 30 bucks or something. But regardless, I'm gonna get this carburetor ripped off real quick and see if we can get this thing running. The shop's kind of a mess right now, so I don't want to spend no more than about 20 minutes on this. I'm trying to get everything cleaned up. The computer for the plasma table has been down for a couple days, so that's kind of got me going crazy. I just want to see if this thing was running real fast, so I figured it's a good chance to do a little video. So let's get this carburetor ripped off, see if we can get this thing running, and maybe make a little quick lap around the yard real fast. So we got the carburetor off, we got the gas tank off and the plastics. We got one stripped out bolt that's in the side plastic that bolts into the gas tank. It's pretty much not a big deal for us because we're going to replace all that anyways. It's only like 40 bucks for a gas tank, plastic, and a seat. And as you can see from the video, all that's in pretty rough shape. So let's go ahead and take this carburetor off. We'll take a look on the inside, see if it's gummed up, try to clean everything out, go over there to the air compressor, blow everything out real good, put it back together, cross our fingers, and hope and pray this thing busts off. So a pretty neat little trick, maybe some people that don't know about it. If you get a bolt in these carburetors that's kind of stuck, as long as it's not completely ringed out on the inside or completely stripped out, you take your screwdriver and you can take a hammer, and as you push down on the screwdriver, twist it in the direction you're trying to go and hit the top of the screwdriver with the hammer. They actually make impact screwdrivers that's actually got a spring-loaded deal in it. It's made for doing this. But if you don't have one and the bolt's not too rusted in there or too tight, normally just a regular screwdriver and a little bit of pressure and a hammer will take care of it. And this is always much easier if you got a little vise or maybe somebody to help hold the carburetor. It's kind of hard to do one-handed when you hit with the screwdriver, but you can get it done. Normally a little bit of pressure, just that little bit of tapping will kind of free all that rust up on there, and most of the time it'll come on out. You can also take a pair, if I have a pair that I can find. I don't have a good pair. You can take a pair of cutters and cut into the top, and most of the time twist it that way. So we got the carburetor back together. We lost some footage. I didn't know that we quit recording. We ran out of space and I had to delete a couple things so we could continue. But a couple cool tricks you can do if you don't know about them is if you want to check your float to see if your float's working correctly and you're not going to have gas pouring out of your carburetor. If you'll take your gas line or a fresh piece of line and hook up to your carburetor and flip your carburetor over and blow into your gas line, you should not be able to blow, within reason past that seat. I mean, you don't have to just huff and puff on it all day, but a little bit of pressure should not go past that seat. If you're able to push a little bit of pressure past that needle and seat, it's not good. You're going to need a new one. Another thing to do, it's pretty common, but some people might not know about it, is if you start messing with your air screw, that's your idle screw, this is your air screw. If you start messing with your air screw, count how many times it takes to turn it in. Turn it all the way in till it bottoms out. If it takes 2 turns, write that down on a piece of paper. So when you take it out to clean that hole, you put it all the way in and bring it out 2 turns. You know exactly where it was at originally. Not saying that's correct, that's just where it was originally. Another thing to look at is these carburetors on this particular design has an O-ring here. You have this spacer that goes on your intake. The flat part without the O-ring goes to the carburetor. The piece with the O-ring goes to the intake. You can see this O-ring starting to wear out. It's got some pretty big flat spots in it where there's no O-ring sticking above the plastic. So that may start sucking a little air there. We're probably going to need that, which we're going to order a carburetor and everything for it, so it's not a big deal. But if you're trying to get by as cheap as possible and it seems like it's wanting to rev up and down like it's sucking air, check your O-rings. Make sure your O-rings are good. So I'm going to run over there. I'm going to go ahead and just blow the gas tank out and put the carburetor back on there and see if this thing will bust off. So this is it. Moment of truth. We got this thing put back together. Carburetor cleaned up real good. Gas tank did have a little rust in it. I actually didn't worry about cleaning it much because we're going to replace it. But we've got everything hooked up. We've got just a little bit of gas in it. So we're about to see if this thing will bust off or not. I actually don't even have the plastic completely bolted back down. But we got the gas on. Hooked up. See what it does. That's actually way better than I thought. We definitely got an exhaust leak. So looks like we're missing a couple of bolts there, but we're probably gonna replace the exhaust anyways. Let's take this thing for a little ride and see if it actually moves or not. Probably one of the biggest things I hate about these little knockoff deals is like this one, the gear shift reversing what a Honda is. It's down instead of up. So all the gears are down. Makes it a little aggravating. Oh yeah. Kind of wants to idle up a little bit from time to time. Stop truck. The dog is not liking this at all. Brakes actually work just a little bit. Oh, trying to die. Time to jump. Try this. Alright, we're gonna call that good. Oh, and it died. So we're gonna call that good for the day, I think. Definitely need to get some more parts for it. Exhaust, new carburetor, throttle cable, some better front brakes, plastics, a few odd and end things. But the good thing about this is everything we'll order for it, probably including some better tires, will probably be under $200. It's amazing what you can do with these little things so cheap. And that's one reason I like to pick them up, especially if you can get them for free or next to nothing, 40, 50, 60 bucks. And you can take these little motors and just build all kind of stuff with them, all kind of go-karts, little buggy projects. I know a lot of y'all probably watch that Grind Hard Plumbing Company. They build the little Barbie Jeep things and Power Wheels deals with gas motors. Now, of course, they're using bigger motors than these, but for somebody that wanted a cheap little project, pick one of these up. And as you can see, this thing had, what I've been told, this thing's been sitting for a couple years. Clean the carburetor, a little bit of fresh gas, and first kick. You just can't beat these little knockoff Honda motors just because they're basically a Honda motor and they're just tough and reliable. But that's pretty much gonna be it for this one. I finally got our computer back from the computer shop for the plasma table, so I'm gonna be cutting parts all day, and I'll go in and edit this video real fast and get it posted, and that's gonna be it. So until next time.